Hello everybody, welcome to Music Maestros. I am your host, Movie Master Mike, and today I'm going to be talking about perfect albums. And this is my personal preferences on albums, so if you disagree, if you think this album sucks or whatever, or you think this album should have been on the list or anything like that, that's fine. These are just my picks. I'm just doing 10. These aren't like my 10 favorite albums. They're just what I consider to be perfect in the fact that you can listen to it from start to finish without skipping a track or being like, yeah, I don't want to listen to this part or whatever. Like, from start to finish, solid. And these aren't necessarily my favorite bands. They're just albums that I love, and they have to mean something to me. Like, I do like these bands. They're not just going to be bands that I think have one good album. Like, I like them overall as a group, but not necessarily my all-time favorite bands are going to be on this list. And in fact, I'm going to exclude the Beatles because I could literally put like 6 or 7 Beatles albums on this list, and I'm only doing 10. And I'm also only doing one album per band. So I'm not going to have like multiple albums from any other band besides the Beatles. All right, in no particular order, I'm going to get this started. First off, I have Green Day's Insomniac. I love this album. It's loud. It's obnoxious almost. It's headache-inducing. It's their second full-length studio album, and Dookie came out before this. But Dookie was kind of like a mix between like their demo beforehand and some newer songs. So this was like their first like full-length post being signed by a record label album. And so like they're still in that like, oh, we're just a local punk band, and anything after this, it's like, okay, now we're like an established, like, you know, we played Woodstock in the 90s and stuff like that. This album, I just love it. I can listen to it all the time. I do listen to it all the time still. I've been listening to it since 95. I think it's the first CD I ever bought with my own money at a record shop. So it means a lot to me. All right, next we have Portishead by Portishead, their second album, which is their self-titled album. I think it's better than their first album. In this album, they actually added like a record scratch type sound, like to make it sound like they recorded it like, you know, 80 years ago or whatever. It's got some great songs. I mean, just the song All Mine is amazing, but I can listen to it front to back, be absolutely happy. I put it on like when I'm cleaning and stuff, and just, it's great. I love it. These next 3 albums I'm going to talk about are all metal albums. I'm big into heavy metal, more the death metal than black metal and stuff. The first one I want to talk about is Prevail by Cataclysm. I love this album. My old roommate got it for me for my birthday when it first came out. I listen to it all the time. I used to keep it like in my backpack, so like if I was ever like hanging out with anybody, I'd be like, oh, check this out, let's listen to this. Like, I love it. It's an amazing album, start to finish, every track. Our next is Black Seeds of Vengeance by Nile. Now this is probably, other than Cannibal Corpse, the first like death metal band I got into, and it was on this album that I was getting into them, and my god, this album is awesome. So good. The song Black Seeds of Vengeance, it's killer. But I think my top track on this album is To Dream of It's like half metal, like it's very slow, and his raspy high voice is kind of just like talking, and then some metal parts kick in. Like it's really cool, really atmospheric. I gotta love the ancient Egyptian theme. It's amazing. All right, next is Vengeance Ascending by Diabolic. And this is a band, like, somehow I knew about them and listened to them, and I think a friend of mine in high school traded me this CD for a Deicide CD, another death metal band, and I had bought the Deicide album and liked it. Like, I liked Deicide, but I didn't love it, and he liked it more than I did, so he traded me. So I got Diabolic's Vengeance Ascending, and I love it. I listen to it all the time. It's fast, it's catchy. The solos and most of the songs are like super awesome and like kind of creative, and it's amazing. I love it. All right, next is one of my all-time favorite bands, other than the Beatles, Blind Guardian, and the album At the Edge of Time, which came out in 2010. And I've heard some flack against this album, that it's not that good and whatnot, but I think this is the first album that I actually bought of theirs when I started getting into them. And it's got 2 Game of Thrones themed songs, like a Wheel of Time themed song, a song about the Valkyries. Like, it's a great album. I love it from start to finish, and I think it's their best album, because most of their albums I love, but there's always like 1 or 2 tracks that I could skip. But this one, from start to finish, I listen to. Next we have Pink Floyd's The Final Cut. No, it's not The Wall, it's not Dark Side of the Moon, not Division Bell, it's The Final Cut. And the reason I love this album so much is, one, I can listen to it from front to back. Of course, that's what this list is all about. But like I got it from a teacher of mine in high school. He knew I listened to like, old school rock and roll and 60s and 70s rock and stuff. And so he burnt me a copy of this CD, and I still have that version of it. And this is in the early 2000s. So it was before they added When the Tigers Broke Free to the Final Cut album, which I love that song. It's one of my favorite Pink Floyd songs, but it doesn't belong on this album. It belongs on The Wall. It was in The Wall movie. So I don't know why they put it on the Final Cut. I haven't listened to that version of the album where they inserted that song into it, and I don't want to. Like, it just feels like it would disrupt the flow of the album. It's the perfect album. I love it so much. But my teacher gave it to me, and I listened to it all the time. I used to like fall asleep to this and Dark Side of the Moon all the time. It's just, I love this album. All right, next we have Antichrist Superstar by Marilyn Manson. This album, it's weird. It's like creepy at some points. It's got some cool music. Probably the worst song on the album is The Beautiful People, and it's a good song. So when the worst song is a good song and the only song that people know, the rest of the album is awesome. Some great tracks on this album. All right, next we have Memory Almost Full by Paul McCartney. Now, it was released on June 5th, 2007 in the United States, and my dad had bought it, and he listened to it. He's like, yeah, it's okay, and he gave me a copy of it, not the deluxe version, which I have now, but it's just the regular version, and I listened to it almost non-stop, over and over again. I love it. Like, every song, it's just really cool, and being a huge Beatles fan, like, I love the Beatles so much, and so listening to this album, I can project the Beatles into it, like the lyrics, like, oh, this song, like this line of this song, he's talking about his time in the Beatles, and yeah, that's just me projecting. It's probably not. I think I read somewhere that it was about like one of his wives that he had at the time. I know like one song sounds like it's about a guy wanting to jump from a building to commit suicide, and like the police or the firefighters, whatever, like trying to calm him down and to get him to like step away from the ledge. It's a really cool song. All right, next I have two honorable mentions, and that's White Zombie's Astro Creep 2000 and Rob Zombie's Hellbilly Deluxe. I love both these albums. I can listen to them from start to finish. They just didn't make the top 10. I liked all these other ones more, but I did want to mention them at least. All right, so the last one I want to talk about is Black Sabbath by Black Sabbath. Love this album. Oh my God, I love this album. Every single song is just awesome. Listen to it from start to finish. It's amazing. I don't think there's any Black Sabbath or Ozzy Osbourne album better than this. Debate me all you want on that. I love it. Absolutely love it. Oh my God, it's just so good. Like every time you think like, oh, this song's not as good as the last one, there's a riff in it or a line in it or a verse in it. You're just like, oh man, that's awesome. It's so good. Everything is so good. All right, those are my top 10 perfect albums from start to finish from 10 different bands that I like, and they all mean something to me, have little stories to go with them. So let me know in the comments below what your top 10 perfect albums are. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe on this channel. This has been Music Maestros, and I'm your host, Movie Master Mike, reminding you to speak your geek and balance your geek with Geekquillibrium.